Are we streaming? I think we're streaming. Alright. I think I actually have my mic on for this one. Yeah, I've got my mic on. Alright, so this video, this stream, we're gonna go over my program that I've written in C Sharp. And is it it's a memory reader. You use it for stuff and changing life in games and looking at software keys that you can't get out anymore because you lost the original package and you're forced to buy a $300 new one. Those kinds of things. But yeah, um, so it I did all purposes like of making this was like I had no intentions of like using it on anything. It was just something fun to write, right? Um, Something to learn C sharp with, and it was it's this right here has been challenging, to say the least. I've had oh gosh, I've had like about 4 iterations of my code already. Change things around and move things everywhere, and it's still not like super clean. But there's still stuff I can clean up. Um, but other than that, it's looks pretty good. I mean, I got it pretty organized now. It'll probably get sloppy again, like it does. Entropy. Uh, or was it? Yeah. That's entropy. So let me show you this thing. I've made some changes to it, and these changes are actually really cool. I've added read buttons and write buttons to each offset instead of the combo box. Now you just click them and enable them. And you can read and write on that specific address that you've entered. And 64 or 32-bit, it automatically decides whether or not you're on a 64-bit system and whether or not you're running a 32-bit or 64-bit um, application. But if you somehow like use this program to enter values longer than are accepted, I think it would probably crash. But regardless of that, this new addition that I've added, I've finally found out how to search memory, and that took quite a while to completely understand. I'd say at least a good day, uh, a long day, like not a short day, of understanding and reading and trying and trying again and again and again. And this is the result. So I've added changes around. It's a kind of a crappy UI right now. Probably change it in the future. I don't know why I have gray as the back, but yeah, and gray's horrible. Why do I even have that? This text box will be removed. This console will not be written to anymore because the speed at which I'm reading memory is surpassing the speed at which I'm writing, if that makes any sense. And I'll show you in a second here. So we'll go to our process here, and we'll look at Diablo 2 because it's Diablo 2, and you could do anything with it. So if we look at this value right here, I have this little text value of new stats. It's just like a simple thing to look up real quick, and you can find an address for it. I found an address, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna take that address and play with it. So I'll probably leave that up. I'll just put that to the side. And so we have the game here, and we'll go here, and I don't have these labeled or anything yet, because I'm still working on it. Um, the search function does not actually, I don't have any code written for the search function yet. It will be added probably in the near future, probably after exams. And that will be a cool function because what you could do with that is pretty much limitless as far as like looking into memory. One thing I do still need to understand and further research is the virtual query process. And this essentially looks for blocks of, or chunks of memory regions and finds out whether or not it's writable, accessible, readable, all the protected stuff, if you will. And if it is, then obviously you don't want to read from that region because it would give you an error and then you'd probably crash your computer or game or whatever you're playing, right? Um, but for some reason, I enter when I'm trying to change around or add, I'm changing int PTRs to uints and then adding them. And I tried long integers too, but none of them seem to work. I've tried different iterations. I've looked at code online. I've tried to get help. No one really knows how to do this, so it's more like just playing around until you figure it out. Um, and that's what I'm doing. But for now, I'm actually looking at a specific chunk of memory based on an amount that I enter in this box. So I'm reading a region of 1,000 bytes versus I'm looking at that memory and then finding out whether or not it's accessible and then reading it manually rather than using the chunk region method that many people have posted and said to use, and none of it works like that I've used so far. So, like, just figure it out for yourself, pretty much. And so, what I ended up doing is I did a little bit more reading on the Microsoft website. I'm not entirely sure if this will work, but virtual lock and unlock, it seems like it would work, but I don't know how to tell if it's working because I mean I guess I could try to read like some block that like crashes me or something, I suppose. But let's look at the program now, and let's actually search and go back to what we were doing. So we're going to go here, we select that address, we're going to put it in here, we're going to put it in here, and then we're going to change this value to a larger value because this is the max value in which this value is going to read up to this value. Now the cool thing about this is I have it threading through 4 different methods at the same time. It seems like it's more efficient, but I I'm not entirely sold yet. I still have a little bit more. I just like learned how to thread today, so um, that is what I'm doing is dividing like the maximum address by 4, and then taking the bottom address and adding certain values up to a certain point of the second address, and then it stops, and the second address is reading values from that point onto a quarter. Basically, it's splitting up in quarters and adding it to each address, and then they search different parts of the memory, so it's quicker. You have 4 methods running at once, and it's like a lot of processing power. Yeah. Anyways, um, we will look at regions of 1,000 bytes. So let's do that and see what we get. So, again, the search part is not functioning yet. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So that was pretty quick, right? Yeah, that took like a couple seconds, and I got all this data here. It's like, whoa, it's just flooded with data, and there's lots of it. Like there's a lot more. I can't even scroll up to see it. Like that was that was like a huge chunk of data. Um, let's look at more. So let's oops, I closed that. Let's reopen it. So let's go up from from 4 to 5. Let's move up one uh, whole number in the in that spot right there, in that hex value. I don't know the decimal value of that. And make sure we select our, that's a good idea. I should probably add a decimal calculator and hex calculator here just to know, say, hey, this is your hex value. Hey, this is your other value, and this is your float, and so on and so forth. And you can do a lot with those, especially if you're reading memory. Yeah, might do that. Anyways, let's look at this guy and see how fast this reads. We're reading chunks of 1,000. Let's go up to like, I don't know, let's go to 5,000, right? It'll. The problem is when you're reading larger chunks, and especially with this, like this text just gets pounded with text, and I need to get rid of that. Like that's just taking up too much. It's essentially gonna like freeze the process and crash it if I don't fix it. But it keeps reading it because it's reading through so quickly, and I just wanted points to show it to show me certain points of whether or not it's reached a certain point, and then let me know that so I can like fix it and whatnot. But let's read. See, look how quickly that's going through. It's just like super fast, and now it's starting to get overrun. And did you hear that ding? So that ding happens when you are trying to access memory that can't be accessed. I believe that's what happens. And it's happening so quickly. It's either that or I have too much text in my text box, and it's just like, oh, you can't add anymore. You know what? I'm gonna do something real quick. So let's go to this form, and we don't even need to see this thing right now. Like let's just totally disable it. So we're gonna go there. Maybe that's what's making the. See, I thought it was like accessing like memory or trying to access memory that can't be accessed, and that's why it was making the sound. But I just had this funny feeling that it's probably not that, and it's just the program itself. So let's try that again. And so I shouldn't see any text here. I don't think I should. Oh, no, still text. Hold on, let's change that. We don't want to update. Oh, if we did that, then we'd have to change a lot of code around. I don't want to do that right now. Let's see, so what if, yeah, I don't think I could do anything to that right now. I guess I can increase can I increase the character amount? Oh, I can. No, I can't. It's only 13,000. And yeah. Anyways, we won't go up that high. Let's not go up that high, because it'll just make that sound over and over and over and over and over until I fix it. It'll probably still do it on this one, but let's read chunks of like. Let's do 50,000. Let's have some fun. Let's see how quickly that'll process and how many swirling things of death I can get on this thing here. Oh, you know what? I'm not reading the. Oh, you know what? I need a stop button on that too. I should really add a stop button. It's like thinking of things to add as I'm using it. So let's go here, go here. We'll go 1, 2, 3 over, add an F. We'll read 50,000, and we will go. And oh, that worked good. Oh, that worked way better because it didn't update. Because I was reading such a large chunk, it it wasn't updating as quickly. So uh, that that noise didn't occur. What is this text? Silent, monumental, row, rosa, rune. Oh, you know what? Is that 56? It's going in increments, it looks like. Sometimes it jumps depending on what process is threading at the time. But that worked really well. I think I might set the default value to 50,000 of a chunk. Seems like a good value. Actually, I want to try from the base address that I have all the way up to the max address and see what happens. I haven't actually done that yet. So, make sure we get our process. We are going to read every single byte and see how long it takes. Threads going. Oh, swirling thing of death and noise. So, the noise is either from the console or trying to access memory that I can't access. And I think it's the memory. I'm almost positive it's the memory because it occurs in big chunks and then goes away. But regardless, you probably don't want to hear that shit. So let's go back. I guess I can't go. Maybe I'll just let it run overnight or something. 50,000. I wonder if I go to 80,000 chunks. Let's try 80,000. And this chunk amount, when I add it, the virtual query should look at that chunk before I read it and tell me whether or not I can read from it. Which is kind of strange why it would be, yeah, anyways. Nothing there. Oh, that's because they're not reading the correct process. Yeah, you kind of want to read the right process. So let's go to that. 1, 2, 3, 4, F, and let's go up to max. 99999. Just try to break this thing. Swirling thing of death. Maybe. Nope. Ah, that was great. That actually worked really well. Usually it'll just spam the text here, but because I had such a large byte value region that I'm reading from, it actually didn't even surpass that region. So the bigger the better. But the problem is I'm adding too much to the address, so it's actually going past this value. But once it passes that value, that could be a problem if you're reading really, really high, like the max value, and it could crash on you. But I have a function in there that should stop it, but sometimes it might go over like 1 increment or something like that. Interesting. I should get a sound, something with sound, like to turn that off too. Maybe add something like that. Well, if anyone has any ideas for this thing, I would love to hear them. I think I just figured out my problem with this, with the text scrolling there. Just increase your increment or your region value. And you don't necessarily even need the query, virtual query region info. I mean, it's good, but if you define it yourself, then you can literally just define what you want to read. But I've heard that looking at chunks and reading those chunks and then moving on to the next chunk and discarding the other chunk is the better thing to do. Whereas here I'm keeping all of the chunks, and so it's probably overloading my CPU. And that's due because, I am a new coder and I am learning these things. I don't even know how to sign a certificate on these things yet. And it's super difficult. Like they have a lot of stuff on signing certificates, and it's like, well, I have to do all that just to release my program. That's crazy, but I'll do it. Um, but in the future, the main goal though is just to learn C sharp, how everything functions, and eventually even mess with the next project will be after this is done, is actually playing with the graphics engines and making my own engine that will be used for a video game. 2D, start with 2D, maybe even 1D. Uh, I don't know. I'd like to start with 2D, uh, just because I like 2D games, and I think I understand it enough to go through the struggle of learning how to create a game and especially an engine. Maybe making a 1D game or even a web browser, like some click-based game, or something that does keeps track of like a character, stats, items, things like that, and how you collect them and add them to your character, and maybe some models for those things would be pretty cool. Uh, might actually focus on that next. Maybe make some simple 1D game. Keep it simple. Um, I say keep it simple, but I made like a memory reader, which a lot of people don't even know anything about memory, and I mean, I know I don't even know that much about memory. I'm sure anybody could actually make this thing. Getting it to work is the hard part. You actually have to understand what you're doing, and a lot of the code or a lot of the tutorials that they have at the MS Microsoft website, like they just give you the general function, and then you have to know what a D word is, or what an object is, or a class. Yeah. Classes are actually pretty interesting. Like you could do a lot with classes, and I don't even know the full spectrum of what you can do yet. But in the future, I'll find out. But if you have any suggestions for this program, I'd love to hear it. Anyways, peace out.